Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing with debunking atheist dogma. In this video, we will be looking at some bad arguments from the atheist camp and showing both theists and atheists that these arguments can be easily objected to and can be debunked. So today we will be looking at the claim that science in some way disproves God, and I will be objecting to it in the way that science is unable to prove anything with certainty. In fact, I'll be using both that claim and the claim that many theists' claims don't actually conflict with science to show that this is a pretty ridiculous argument to put out there. Let's take a look. So, first off, science and certainty. Most scientists will aver that they are looking for the theories of best fit based on the evidence, but if provided with further evidence would change their theories. That's why they're called theories, not truths or absolutes. Science does not claim that it seeks truth, simply best guesses based on the evidence present. They're not even looking for certainty. They're just looking for what seems to be the best way for us to fit the evidence together. If tomorrow's significance evidence for God were to appear, science would assert such a claim. Not because it was true, but because the evidence seemed to point to it. Because that's all science does, is it shows us what it seems that the evidence is pointing to at a given time. It can change quite easily. Even when our theories seem to be confirmed by evidence or experiment, the best science can do is claim that the theory seems to be confirmed and may not continue to be confirmed next week, tomorrow, or even ever again. It's important to note that science is not talking about certainty or absolute truth at all. The best science can say is it appears to us that God is not the best theory to describe the evidence that we currently have. However, there's a lot of people that say that God is the best theory to describe the evidence that we currently have, based on other things. Science can't do anything to say that one theory is better than another. You can go back and forth in a debate, but if the theory claims to explain all the evidence, we have a problem. Don't get started on Occam's razor. I have another video on why that is just as problematic as any other theory. The point here is one must delve into philosophy to understand why these arguments may be problematic, because philosophy is the only way that's going to encompass both the kind of claims of religion and the claims of science and put them on such a par that they can actually debate with each other instead of debating past each other. Science is not the kind of thing that deals with certainty, so science can't in some way disprove God, because it can't prove anything with certainty. It's also important to note that a lot of the claims of religion, not all the claims of religion, but a lot of the claims of religion are not within the scope of science. There are many claims that science does not have the tools to investigate, or does not yet have the tools to investigate. What happens to consciousness after death? If you're unconvinced that consciousness is a thing, you should check out my video on philosophical zombies. Gives you some interesting ideas. What, if anything, happened before the Big Bang? Or what was the beginning of the universe? Or did the universe begin? Has the universe always existed? These are questions that science doesn't yet have the tools to answer. Maybe they will soon, but they don't seem to yet have the tools to answer. Or perhaps a question that science may never have the tools to answer, such as, what is the right thing to do? What is ethical? You can't get an ought from an is, as I showed in a previous video in this series. So how can science show us what is ethical or right to do? Can you find a rightness in certain particles or certain things or objects? I'm not so sure. The scope of science is also problematic simply because a theist holds beliefs about things that science has yet to study does not mean that science is in conflict with religion. It does mean, perhaps, that religion is in conflict with some doxastic ethical principle that we should not believe things without evidence, but that's stated nowhere in science, or in the scientific method. You're allowed to believe things without evidence. It's just not going to be supported by science. But science doesn't say, science is the only thing that can ever prove things to be true. Science isn't in conflict with such claims that science cannot study, because science inherently can't study them. So if the theist makes some claim that is outside the realm of science, then it's not going to be in conflict with science, because science has made no claims on that thing as of yet. Such as, what happens to consciousness after one dies? It's the kind of thing that science has yet to have the tools to study. So were someone to make a claim about that, science is unable to contradict it, as science has nothing to say about that. Science can say, well, we prefer to be skeptical, and withhold judgment or withhold belief until we have proof or evidence. But they can't, without some kind of ethical principle, say that you are wrong to believe that thing. There's an important note to make with this argument, which is that some theists do hold positions that are directly in conflict with science, such as the Earth began 6,000 years ago, so on and so forth. While science may be unable to completely refute these claims, they can present a great deal of evidence to the contrary, such that it should at least convince the theist to suspend judgment on the truth of their claims. Maybe not convince them to go all the way over and believe the scientist's claim, but they should at least be skeptical, be doubtful of those claims. If there is a strong argument on one side and a strong argument on the other side of a claim or of a debate, it would seem that the only prudent or rational thing to do would be to suspend judgment and be a skeptic. I'll leave you with a quote from Richard Dawkins. I constructed the God delusion, a 7-point scale, of which 1 was I know God exists, and 7 was I know God doesn't exist. I called myself a 6. It's important to note that the dogmatic atheist position of I know God doesn't exist is terribly untenable. And it's a straw man if theists are arguing against it, and if an atheist is putting it out there, they should stop, because it's not even close to justified. Watch this video and more at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.